Kita masih menunggu para tetamu untuk masuk ke join kita punya live. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Kuntum melati tumbuh melata, burung merbah di pohon cemara. Assalamualaikum pembuka bicara, selamat datang untuk semua. Saya Nurul Fazlina binti Radwan, pengacara majlis anda pada pagi ini. Terlebih dahulu, saya ingin mengucapkan ribuan terima kasih dan tahniah kepada semua peserta khusus yang dapat meluangkan masa bersama-sama mengikuti ilmu kita pada pagi ini. Bak kata pujangga, tuntutlah ilmu hingga ke liang lahat, tuntutlah ilmu hingga ke negeri Cina. Semoga usaha kita semua diberkati Allah. Untuk pengetahuan semua, sesi seminar kita pada kali ini adalah anjuran Malaysian Society of Radiographer bersama-sama dengan Jawatan Kuasa Penyelidikan Juru X-ray Diagnostik Kebangsaan. Sayang selasih berisi minyak, bunga cengkeh di atas cerami. Terima kasih banyak-banyak sudi datang ke majlis kami. Hadirin sekalian, sesi seminar kita pada pagi ini memfokuskan kepada cabaran dan kerjaya juru X-ray diagnostik yang akan menjalankan penyelidikan radiografer for research di Malaysia. Untuk mengupas lebih lanjut tentang topik seminar kita pada pagi ini, pihak penganjur telah menjemput seorang penceramah yang sangat berpengalaman untuk menyampaikan ceramah beliau yang bertajuk Good Researcher, Why Smart People Don't Know They Have the Wrong Idea. Hadirin dan hadirat sekalian, bagi menambah keberkatan majlis kita pada hari yang penuh bermakna ini, marilah bersama-sama kita menadah tangan mengaminkan bacaan doa yang akan dibacakan oleh Encik Muhammad Muzakir bin Zainal Alam. Majlis dengan segala hormatnya mempersilakan. Saya dimaklumkan kita ada masalah, jadi kita bersama-samalah membacakan surah Al-Fatihah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki yaumiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim. Amin amin ya rabbal alamin. Sebelum kita menghayati intipati khusus kita kali ini, Suka saya ingin menceritakan serba sedikit latar belakang penceramah kita pada hari ini. Nama yang diberi Dr. Nur Aniza binti Azmi. Beliau merupakan seorang pensyarah. Beliau merupakan pemegang ijazah Diagnostik Imaging dan Radioterapi di Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia. Kemudian, beliau telah memperolehi Master of Research in Health Sciences di University of Liverpool. Perjalanan pengajian beliau tidak terhenti di master saja. Beliau telah berjaya memperolehi PhD in Health Sciences di Universiti Teknologi Mara pada tahun 2018. Sememangnya, beliau arif dalam bidang klinikal dan telah berjaya menerbitkan banyak artikel sepanjang perkhidmatan beliau. Tanpa melengahkan masa, dengan segala hormatnya, saya mempersilakan Dr. Nur Aniza binti Azmi untuk menyampaikan ceramah beliau.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Nora Azmi, a not so smart researcher that will share my humble experience on how to outsmart the research process complexity. It's very complex, I know. And make sure you can actually spot the wrong ideas in the first instance so that it will not be too late. So I think previous established speakers has talked a lot about technical aspect of doing research, the do's and the don'ts. So I think it's all been done and dusted on that part. So to put aside the technical aspect for today, I'm going to focus on how to stay sane, stay safe, and sustain the research module for a long run because it's going to be a very long journey for all of us. So, some gentle reminder for today. While waiting for others to come in, please turn off your camera and microphone, and then feel free to type your question in the chat box, and I'll be more than happy to answer all the questions at the end of the presentation. Okay? So hopefully we'll have a lot of questions. So for today, we will cover 4 parts. The first part is on why we don't actually or ignorance to realize that we have the wrong ideas. Okay, the second part is on why we are actually our own worst critic, why we are being so critical of ourselves, and how not to fall into the intelligence trap. Okay, the third part we cover on what is the tips and tricks to make a wiser decision, because we know that there is no one size fits all solution that will actually be applicable for everyone at all the time. So pick and choose which one that will fit you. And a plus point on how, if you are actually being a researcher, it can actually help you to build a sustainable career path. And the last part will be on what can you do to stay motivated and productive in research. Okay, so this is the 4 part that hopefully we will cover in the 1-hour webinar today. So the first part, why we don't realize, or maybe we are quite ignorant that we actually have a wrong idea or maybe ideas. Okay, first of all, is a well-known fact that your finished research or publication or thesis often share very little similarity with what you propose to use, so your original research proposal. Okay. Despite this, however, I myself often seem to suffer a minor freakout every time my research does not go quite to plan. And to be honest, it's almost all the time. Okay, so at the moment what I'm doing is I'm currently digging the data for published modules to improve patient care experience in radiotherapy, and simultaneously at the same time I'm also doing another research on simulating an artificial intelligence chatbot to train fellow radiation therapists for effective communication with patients. So I thought I would share with you all some of the things that I've learned about how unpredictable unpredictable it is, the whole research process. Okay, so don't worry if you feel suffocated, if you feel less motivated, if you feel lonely while doing research. Bear in mind that you are not alone. We are in the same ship. Okay, this is us trying to find a balance between how to balance research, how to balance our work, and also how to balance life at home. All of this is very demanding. Okay, so I'm guessing now that most of us spend at least part of the day feeling uncertain right now. COVID-19 add up to that equation. So there are a few questions that run through my mind on most days. Like, what does the future look for me, for my research, for my family? And when will things actually return to normal? What there is macam multiple variant over variant. It seems like a never-ending story of a new variant. So, but beyond COVID-19, uncertainty is actually a fact of life and a fact of creating changes in any organizations. So I think there are some lessons that we can actually take and apply for research from the current situations of uncertainty. So in psychological terms, uncertainty is actually a state which is caused by an individual perception of the environment that they find themselves in. So this perception can actually cause people to experience uncertainty in different ways. But in the field of research, uncertainty is actually given in daily doses. In some of the days in research, it's given in a very big dose. So it creates an environment of novelty and opportunities for us to try new things. But we also make mistakes, and what we can do is actually learn from them. But for other researchers, uncertainty in research can actually cause stress and psychological strain. This can actually lead to a fight or flight response in the brain, which limits the performance and also your creativity. Okay, so how can one researcher react differently from the other researcher? So this different actually has been attributed to individual factors, as every person will actually have different response to the situation. Even with a similar situation, every person will have a different response. Okay, so in my views, and others might agree or disagree, we can actually all flip from one side of the scale to the other side of the scale. Sometimes we'll find uncertainty in research is quite difficult to deal with, and at other times we find it quite easy to deal with, like easy peasy lemon squeezy, like it doesn't matter anymore. So this could be because of where we are, so, or what we want to do and how we feel when we go through different stage of research, because humans are dynamic. We are dynamics, and we don't react the same way all of the time. So what matters most in working in uncertain world of research is control makes all the difference. So a key factor in the amount of stress that a researcher will feel in relation to an uncertain situation is the level of control that they feel and have over it. So a feeling of loss of control can actually lead to an increase in psychological distress. So particularly if this is actually combined together with the feeling of uncertainty about how the research will progress and what the data outcomes will be. Will it be a perfect data that fit the objective? Okay, so the fact that many of us are going through a very uncertain time for research, work, and family life is why this is so important right now. So based on a study by Prashant Borgia, the researchers found that getting effective communication and being able to have a say in the process and feel more in control made all the difference. Most importantly, researchers actually felt less stressed by the changes when they had a chance to be involved and help come with a solutions to the problem. Again, this solution will actually lead to a greater sense of control and psychological safety. So they feel more safe and in control. So when a lot of research is done from home remotely, so the need for people to be involved is more important now than ever before. So practice a very effective communication. Don't hide, stay visible. Okay? It can also be so. I think the wrong ideas, numero uno, that we have in research is you need to stay positive all the time. Have you heard about it? Okay. It can also be useful for every researcher to actually learn about their own preference regarding uncertainty that always there in research, or better known as bias or source of errors from either the materials, the methods, the data selected, even up to the how you want to analyze it. So people are expecting you to stay positive at every single different phase of research. But what you can do is think about what you can control and influence. This is known as to be able to control the controllables. So error in research is not a bad thing per se, but for some researchers, they may need more help navigating the uncertain times compared to others. And understanding preference is a key part of this. Also, what you can do is to cut down on the number of things that you need to think about. So you need to know which one to prioritize, to only think about what you can control and what you cannot control. So this can help to clear up some of the confusion and fog, and also some of the other difficulty that come with the research bias. Okay, so there has been a lot of talk about how staying positive in research represent an opportunity for researchers to master new skills and also finish all those tasks that we have been meaning to do for years, as been stated in our research plan. While this might be a good opportunity for growth for some of us, but for other researchers, research is quite tough. It's tough. And simply getting through each task, getting through each phase of research is an achievement on its own. So as we progress through different stages in research and various emotions and motivations that you experience with a single task, so it goes up and down. It's about deciding what we want to achieve in every phase of research. So being clear of this purpose can actually support us when things get tough, and it will get tough. And when you can't actually stay positive all the time, that is not realistic. So this can be as simple as asking yourself, how can I look after myself better? Or you can actually ask yourself, how can I grow something new from this experience or this mishap? Okay, this growth could be for your research, for your work, for your mental health, and also for your family. It doesn't matter what makes you excited, what makes you curious at that moment. Just do what makes you happy or excited. Okay? So the next wrong ideas that commonly be told in research is everything will go according to plan. Bad news, thing will not always go according to plan, no matter how meticulous the plan is and how much you try to follow the guideline to the core. But as a researcher, we do not ignore unexpected or wrong results, because this is how the real world works. It's not ideal. So when something goes wrong in research progress or the research process, it's essential to actually work out why and correct the problem as soon as possible. Don't delay. You need to know, was it actually a human error? Was it actually due to the faulty materials? Was it actually the wrong methods that we use? Or is it just a malfunction of the system that you can rectify? Researcher must investigate. That is our responsibility. So what if it's actually accidental? Is it not a good thing? Many scientific principles and products that are now part of everyday life were actually discovered by accident. Remember, in one of the most well-known accidental discoveries in the history of physics, during a day in March 1896, when Henri Becquerel, a French physicist, opened up a drawer and discovered radioactivity spontaneously. So Henry Becquerel was well positioned to make this exciting accidental discovery in our field now, which came just a few months after the discovery of X-ray. Okay, so when this happened, when the mishap happened, when something goes wrong, it doesn't go according to plan. As human being, you're bound to feel frustrated. It's just you being human, and you blame yourself, and sometimes you blame other fellow researcher. Sometimes you can even blame your cat. Okay, so this is not a psychiatric thing, but this is a natural consequence of the limited human mind that we are interacting with a very complex research environment. And as been argued by Maisels in one of his book, smart people are more likely to have this kind of problems because their brains want to run without an off switch. We doesn't know how to switch off. We work hard on a hard problem. We make a very strict, rigorous mental system to keep ourselves in check. We want to be able to check all the checkbox, and we spend a lot of time looking for meaning. It's also true that smart people are, in short, smart people are very good at getting stressed out. We are very good at that. So Maisel says that in order to fight the negative effect of this mental stress, what you can do is you can practice brain awareness. So this means you basically know what is the limit of your mind, and you have the courage to actually stand up for your opinion, okay, and make decision about what is most important for you, and only think about things that help you make those decisions. Don't waste time on a small petty things. So as a research scientist, we have different targets. We must not try to consistently produce set result as planned. Okay, we should focus on investigating the materials, things that we use, the phenomena that is happening. We need to aim to discover new materials or method. More often than not, we researchers fail to find what we were looking for, but occasionally what we do find might look interesting or potentially very useful. So instead of ignoring the worst result or hiding the result that does not tally with your objective, we should look into it more. So many scientific principles and products that we use every day were discovered by accident, or we call it as serendipity. So when an experiment went wrong, it doesn't go according to plan, don't freak out, because this can lead to discovery of many new ideas and products. So researchers might find things they didn't know that were looking for, but they could see how it can be useful. So what we can do is follow up on this and figure out how to actually apply this and use this in the real world. So second part is, whether we want to admit or not, we are our worst critics. We always been trapped in what is known as the intelligence trap. Why? Because society doesn't like people who are smart. People are afraid of smart people, so they tend to insult smart people and backstab smart people. Some people don't fit in because their interests in the world and how they feel are different from those of other people. We are guilty of doesn't want people to be different. We want them to follow the rules of the society, play by the books. We want them to play the rules of the game. We want people to comply to the norm of the society and standards. So, but many of us have started to accept the idea that we have some hidden bias that we doesn't know about. Perhaps when your boss asks you to look into something, but we think we are smart people, so we don't like to be told. We think that we are better than average people for being rational, right? But if you are smart, this is a cold hard truth, you might be even more likely to make mistakes than other people. You, me, and almost everyone that think they are smart are not so smart. People who are smart are in fact much more likely to make bad decisions because of certain kind of bias. So you might think that, for example, being a Nobel Prize winner will make you more rational, but that's not the case. There's even a word with a big difference between intelligence and reason. It's called dysrationalia. Intelligent people rarely is rational. But what to do? None of us like to be told that we are not as clever as we thought. And a book with a tagline like, Why Smart People Do Stupid Things, will easily become something that we don't enjoy to read. We don't like when people tell us that we are ignorant. But we need to be realistic. We need to understand that there is a very strong, a very urgent case for self-reflection and for us to change how we act. So, why smart people feel trapped? Because work does not always cater to the bright. So, if you have a good idea and not being able to implement them, you feel bored by the multi-level bureaucracy that need to be done just to complete a very simple task, and not being able to use their full brain power basically frustrates smart people. So when you have to deal with a racing brain, it does not really mean that these people are on drugs, because people get excited about challenges. It's like they get an adrenaline rush to keep going. However, people can actually get tired of the mania, and this can make them much more susceptible to addiction. And sometimes it's because they use language to argue any point. So intelligent individuals see rhetoric for what it is, and they can and tend to use logic to defend any point. However, they can get stuck in the complexity of the language itself, and life need to have meaning for them. Smart individuals may be likely to be more distant and sadder about life if it does not hold much meaning for them. So, what is the wrong idea that makes you get trapped into the intelligent trap? So, the first one is known as motivated reasoning. When you think that I'm the expert, so I'm always right. So, mm, this is a phenomenon in which you have an emotional bias. It can lead people to make decisions or justification based on how good it looks rather than how true the evidence is. Okay, so what can you do to avoid being trapped in this motivated reasoning trait? So what you can do first is do a front page test. So what you can do is, studies have shown that people that are more careful and critical when they know that their decision will be made public. So take for example in research setting, okay? So you need to ask yourself, are you going to feel comfortable having your research be published in a journal? So reflect back. This will give you a chance to look at the situation and think more critically on the content of your research. Second is, don't go at it alone. Motivated reasoning can actually make us not pay attention to information that doesn't agree with your goal. You don't like when people disagree with you, right? So we hate it when people disagree with us. We take it personally. We feel being attacked. We may not be able to see the motivated reasoning in ourselves, but we can much more easily see it in other people. So as in research, surround yourself with researchers that you can trust, and make sure you are prepared to listen and acknowledge your limitations. For example, when you receive feedback either from the reviewers on your paper that is quite nasty comment, or from your supervisors that might hurt your pride a little, okay? Take it and self-reflect. Don't surround yourself with people who agree with you all the time. There's no place for a yes man surrounding. Don't do that. Motivated reasoning can be too easy to take over, and it can be quite hard to stop it. And the last tip is to avoid ambiguity. So don't be vague. So when the rules are not clear, motivated reasoning is more likely to happen. So as in research, use common sense and ethical rules when possible. In order to not be able to define the same thing in two different ways, will make your rules much more clear. Okay, make sure that you know which standard you want to use for your research before you start. So, what is the last idea that can make you be trapped in the intelligence trap? So, this is known as strategic ignorance. So, I'm the main researcher. So, my data is valid with the arguments. How ignorant you can be, right? So, strategic ignorance is not about being close minded, it's about knowing what you want. It's realizing how easy you can actually be derailed. You even avoid amazing situation that you know is really a distraction. You create boundaries and live based on your priorities and values and dream. And some of the time, this is not bad decisions. Okay. Social science research looks into how our mind don't want to think about things that get in the way of our feelings and desire. We don't like the roadblock. Okay, so strategic ignorance is a common thing in the lab. Many people don't want to learn about the consequence of their action because they want to act egoistically. The ego win. In real life, many people don't want to know about the products they buy or the condition in which they were made in order to keep their lifestyle. So this is why the founder is flourishing. Okay? It's always work. Ignorance is a bliss. It's a good thing, especially for the rich and powerful. So strategic ignorance is effective because it's hard to find. It's hard to point out without seeming conspirational or having people telling you that you are trying to backstab them. And it's hard to prosecute because the one that is guilty of it get rid of the evidence that could convict them, or they stop the evidence from actually coming out in the first place, like not including the data in the analysis if it does not agree with your objective. Sounds familiar? As a result, we often don't know how often strategic ignorance works and how effective it is. This is because the most successful examples of strategic ignorance are, in a sense, a tactics that work so well that they cannot be found. So use it, but use it wisely. Okay. So this is some of the tips to make a wiser decision. We realize there's no one size fits all solution. Okay. And some of the tips to actually how you can actually use research capabilities to build a sustainable career path. So over the past decade, either we are ready or not, virtually every industry has been disrupted. Think about the last 2 years, how many business has closed down? From technology to travel, finance to food, insurance to investment, major industry has actually been replaced by a very minor startup with new approach to all problem. This is almost similar with what research is about. We are actually trying to find a new approach to all problem, right? And as a radiation therapist or radiographer, we think that we are quite in a stable position. But do you remember 10 years ago, we still have a darkroom technicians? Where are they now? What's a stable career path that we have as radiation therapists or radiographers can actually also follow the extinction? Okay, because the rules of the career game have changed. In fact, the game itself has changed. More than ever, agility and adaptability to a rapidly changing environment, both in your workplace or in the environment as per se, will be a crucial skill for you to craft a successful career and thriving over the long term. As been told by William Gibson, the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. And It will not be evenly distributed. There is no fair and square world anywhere. Okay? For the short-term, iterative thinkers, it has been prevailed in the past that we feel comfortable in our comfort zone. So we have our job, we have our family, so we feel secure. But it needs to be pushed aside. We need to have a more agile, solution-oriented steps for a long-term plan. So this is some of the ways for you to actually adopt and adapt and thrive in this uncertain world. First, we need to understand that that underlying problem that you solve through the research, but you also need to be agnostic in how you solve it. So take for an example something that is not related to research, Airbnb. We book it almost all the time, right? Okay. Airbnb didn't set out to build a cheaper hotel. No. They realized that there is a need in the market to find a solution for a clean, a safe bed to sleep in. So what they do? They cut the real estate ownership. They cut the operational infrastructure and a majority of costs out of the equation entirely. Airbnb doesn't even own a hotel. Suddenly, a person who was working their way up to hotel management ranks may need to apply the operational, guest experience, and leadership skill to a different or adjacent industry so that they will stay relevant. So this is what adaptability means. So even though you think what you have been told to do in research is ridiculous, take it as one of the way for you to actually learn a new tips and tricks. Okay. Second tips is to get clear on what you are great at and constantly improve, upskill your strength and look for growth opportunities where this can actually be applied. So this is what will make you a winner. The best thing you can do if you are in a situation that is either declining or consolidating is to figure out what is the growing problem in industry that you can use your skills before your current job is no longer relevant. Remember the darkroom technician. Once a stable career path are now extinct. This way, you won't be forced to do this when your current job is no longer available or relevant. Stay relevant despite whatever job that you are now. The third one is cultivate your distant visions. So this means that for you to be able to spot a developing trends and gain awareness beyond your current job and industry, it's important for you to get out of your usual environment. Don't get comfortable. It's important for you to actually just try something new. Attend a conference, visit a new city on your next holiday or vacation, or simply just watch a TED Talk instead of watching the Game of Thrones or another Netflix series or just playing PUBG. It's very useful to mix it up on a regular basis. Interact with new people. Talk about things that is outside of your comfort zone. Have interesting conversation that you are afraid to start with. Be visible. Show that you are visible. The more you are exposed to new and different things outside your normal and comfortable routine, the more you will develop a broader perspective and potentially spot a new opportunities. So the more you plan for the unexpected, the more prepared you will be to embrace the change that is happening all around us. Okay. So what can you do to stay motivated and productive in research? So this will be the last part that I'll cover. So the first part is always on plan it properly. Plan your research workload. So because overloading can actually cause a very serious accident mentally, physically, psychologically. Okay. So write a to-do list. so that you will be able to divide the workload into manageable chunks, and you will avoid feeling so overwhelmed, so stressed out, and so anxious. The second step is to have a planner so that you can pace your progress, and you can actually pace how long or what is the time frame for you to complete a task. Okay, but when you actually put a time frame, be realistic and make sure that it's something that you can keep on the momentum. The third is think of a self rewards for you at the end of each part, because once you actually separate it into a smaller part that is more manageable and more reachable in the time frame that you have. So reward yourself once you actually complete even the minor task that you assign yourself to. Okay? Don't be stingy on yourself and create a conducive workspace. So I think this is very important, because the best investment is always self-investment in yourself. So just buy that book that you like, buy that table, buy that chair, even buy that ridiculous ornament if it actually motivates you to do more for your research. The next one is know your boundaries, because not everybody can actually work until 3 or 4 in the morning as age is catching up. I most of the time will be asleep by 9 p.m. Okay, so health come first. Don't actually compromise your health. Okay, know when to switch off and know when to relax, and also sustain the energy so that you will not be forced to go on energy saving mode. Okay.
Ada lama suka you suka I tak? Risau. Saya suka diri saya sendiri. Love yourself.
Motivation can come from
Be
other
who you.
and it's up to you. I love myself.
Ada lama suka you suka I tak? Risau. Saya suka diri saya sendiri. Love yourself. Be who you.
That I had taken on a task that was more difficult than I thought.
Ada lama suka you suka I tak? Risau. Saya suka diri saya sendiri. Love yourself. Be who you.
I have other weakness. Habits and desire were sometimes.
Ada lama suka you suka I tak? Risau. Saya suka diri saya sendiri. Love yourself. Be who you.
To be completely morally upright enough to keep.
Ada lama suka you suka I tak? Risau. Saya suka diri saya sendiri. Love yourself. Be who you.
Before we could have any confidence in a steady, consistent change.
Ada lama suka you suka I tak? Risau. Saya suka diri saya sendiri. Love yourself. Be who you.
Really want to do it. Okay, so it should come from within you. If you want it hard enough, invest in it. The best gift you can give to yourself is self-investment. Okay, the best reward is also for you. So the key, I guess, the lesson learned here, in which I think is applicable to a lot of research, is that you can never plan exactly when everything is going to happen or how long it's going to take. For some people, even though it's stated that master is 2 years or PhD is 3 years, it might take longer than that. I take 8 years for me to complete my PhD. And you need to realize, no matter how much you want to force it, doing research is an organic process. It takes time. It changes and grows in different directions. And yes, you may end up paying the price, either literally or figuratively. Higher fees if you extend your study, okay, for your research, but take it as a little detour from the route. Okay, so I guess the trick is actually to find a balance between being in control of the research process, but at the same time, you need to let it evolve organically. Okay, learn to enjoy the unpredictable journey that is called research. So that's all from me. Remember, everybody is smart. You are smart. Don't let other people's critics make you question your worth. But Don't be too big-headed that you actually avoid yourself from self-reflection. Okay? So for question or just nonsense ramblings or any curahan hati session, you can actually reach out to me by email at noraniza.azmi@ukm.edu.my. And I have to give a disclaimer that the inspiration from this talk actually come from smart people with the right ideas. So like from James Clear on Atomic Habit books, and from Measles, Why Smart People Hurt, a smart person ought to be smart enough to see clearly the limitation of his species, and also the two books by David Robson on the intelligent trap. So I think this is the three books that actually speak to me about this topic. So I hope that this session is actually helpful for you to actually realize and self-reflect why smart people sometimes doesn't have a wrong idea, or why smart people all the time always have a wrong idea. Okay, that's all. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions within my capabilities. Hopefully that this session is helpful for you to actually reach out to your own full potential.
Terima kasih diucapkan kepada Dr. Noraniza di atas perkongsian ilmu yang sangat bermakna dan bermanfaat kepada kita semua. Jika peserta ada soalan yang ingin dikemukakan kepada penceramah, peserta boleh menaip di chat box atau on audio microphone. Soalan akan dijawab oleh penceramah sebentar lagi.
Ada. Hai, Assalamualaikum. Okey, sekiranya ada soalan, saya berbesar hati untuk cuba jawab. Tak ada. Rajin. Okey, terima kasih.
Hadirin dan hadirat yang dimuliakan, tak molek jika ada alu tiada lesungnya, tak berguna jika ada dayung tiada perahunya, tak berkat ilmu tanpa amalnya, tak lengkaplah majlis jika tidak ada yang berbicara. Sebelum kita mengakhiri sesi seminar kita pada hari ini, majlis dengan sukacita dan hormatnya menjemput yang berbahagia teknologis Sawal Marsaid selaku Presiden MSR untuk menyampaikan ucapan beliau. Dengan segala hormatnya dipersilakan.
Okay, terima kasih Puan Pengerusi Majlis. Saya tak kerti nak balas pantun. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Terima kasih kepada sekali lagi kepada Puan Pengerusi Majlis, kepada penceramah kita Dr. Nora. Duduk sebelah-sebelah je. Sebenarnya pada pagi ni juga kita ada mengadakan mesyuarat Exco Persatuan Juru Ekstrim Malaysia di Hospital Pengajar UPM. So ini berjalan secara langsung daripada bilik mesyuarat Hospital Pengajar Universiti Putra Malaysia. Okey, pada hadirin semua, saya rasa saya juga mengucapkan ribuan terima kasih meluangkan masa di hujung minggu bersama dengan MSR untuk sama-sama mendengar dan juga menambah pengetahuan, dan ini merupakan siri terakhir bagi Research for Radiographers series kita untuk peringkat yang pertama, Dan insyaAllah dia akan berterusan kepada peringkat yang seterusnya berdasarkan apa yang kita akan wujudkan bersama dengan kalender persatuan nanti. Okey, saya tidak ada apa sangat nak diperkatakan, memandangkan cuaca pun agak sejuk di luar. Okey. Dan merupakan hujung minggu. Sekali lagi saya ucapkan ribuan terima kasih kepada peserta dan juga kepada puan pengerusi majlis memberi ruang untuk saya berucap dan juga menutup sesi kita pada kali ini. Terima kasih dan Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih diucapkan kepada teknologi Sawal atas ucapan yang telah disampaikan sebentar tadi. Dengan itu, berakhirlah sesi seminar kita pada hari ini. Diharap setiap peserta dapat mempelajari ilmu baru pada hari ini dan dapat dipraktikkan ilmu-ilmu tersebut di institusi masing-masing dalam memberikan perkhidmatan dan sumbangan yang terbaik kepada para pesakit khususnya dalam bidang pengimejan diagnostik. Kepada semua peserta, suka saya mengingatkan untuk mengisi feedback form yang telah disediakan oleh pihak penganjur di mana sijil hanya akan diberikan kepada peserta yang telah lengkap mengisi dan menghantar semula feedback form tersebut. Untuk makluman semua, video seminar pada hari ini akan dimuat naik di saluran YouTube MSR. Akhir kata dari saya, pohon berangan tempat bertemu, girangnya rasa si anak dara, baliklah Tuan membawa ilmu, binalah bangsa, bangunkan negara. Bunga dedap di atas para, anak dusun pasang pelita, kalau tersilap tutur bicara, jemari disusun, maaf dipinta. Sekian dan salam sejahtera. Semoga bertemu lagi pada sesi seminar yang akan datang.